A synagogue is bombed and completely destroyed. At the same time, a residential block next to it is also destroyed, while at least 12 people die over the space of a few hours. But this isn't a terrorist attack against a Jewish place of worship in Britain. Of course, if it was, there would have been immediate condemnation from across the political spectrum, and rightly so. Nor is it in the United States, or elsewhere in Europe for that matter. And those responsible aren't Islamists. Earlier today, US and Israeli forces destroyed the Rafinia synagogue in Tehran. Iran is home to the largest Jewish population in the Middle East outside of Israel. Last year, the Times of Israel said there was still approximately 15,000 Jewish Iranians, with 25 synagogues believed to remain in the country, as well as several kosher restaurants, an old age home, a cemetery, and a Jewish library. There's even an Iranian Jewish newspaper. Jews are, however, subject to several legal limitations in the country, including being barred from holding significant government positions. However, as a religious minority, they're entitled to a seat in Iran's parliament, the Majlis, which is reserved for a Jewish representative. Here is Morjan Yashai, an Iranian Jew, outside the destroyed synagogue earlier today.
خانم یشایی، ما الان در کنار کنیسه رفینیا هستیم، یکی از اماکن مقدس کلیمیان ایران که در حمله هوایی تخریب شده. من از شما به عنوان یه عضو فعال جامعه کلیمی ایران یه سوال دارم. شما چرا ایرانو دوست دارید؟ چرا ایرانو ترک نکردید تا حالا؟
ببینید، کلیمیان بیش از 2500 ساله در ایران هستند. ما همراه بقیه هموطنانمون وقایع تاریخی زیادی رو از سر گذروندیم. بالا پایین های این کشور در گوشت و خون و ژنمون وارد شده. من واقعا اینجا رو که میبینم، درسته که یک تعلق خاطر شخصی نسبت بهش دارم، ولی با بقیه ویرانه های کشورم هیچ تفاوتی برام نمیکنه.
Now, if you're listening along on the podcast, Morjan is asked why she, as a Jew, is staying in Iran. She answers that the Iranian Jewish community has been there for 2,500 years. They've gone through a lot of historical events together with the rest of Iranian society. She adds that she has a relationship with her country, Iran, and not with any other. The country, she says, has entered our flesh and blood. You heard that word there, kalimia. Kalimi, in Persian, is a very polite, formal way of saying a Jewish person. You can say Yehudi, but kalimi is a nice way of saying it. It means literally somebody who's spoken with God. So think about that for a moment. There's a Jewish Persian lady, Iranian Jew, whatever formulation you like. I don't know where she's from in Iran. She could be Azeri, but I think it sounds like she's from Tehran. And she is outside a synagogue. There's 25 of them in Iran. And she's saying that the country is in her blood. And the gentleman she's speaking to is using that word, kalimi, kalimia. One who has spoken with God. It's from a surah in the Quran. And the first synagogue that has been destroyed in Iran wasn't by terrorists. It wasn't by fanatics, although, of course, it was a different kind of fanatic. It wasn't destroyed by Salafists. It was destroyed by the Israeli and US Air Forces. The first one. We've had synagogues attacked in the US, in France, in Britain. The first one in Iran wasn't done by people inside Iran. That makes you think, given that we're told incessantly by our media that Iran wants to genocide everybody in Israel, that it's inherently anti-Semitic, which again, I'm sure there are many anti-Semites in Iranian society. Of course there are. There are lots in this country as well, if you care to look. But it has the second largest population of Jews in the Middle East. They're their own newspaper. Hard to square, isn't it? The reality with the story, which is, Iran is developing nuclear weapons not as a means of leverage or a bargaining chip, as Sina Tusi tells me in that interview, which you can of course watch tomorrow. They want nukes because they want to kill every single Israeli Jew and they want to recreate the Holocaust as quickly as possible.
I think what this underscores, first and foremost, Aaron, is that Israel is willing to sacrifice the safety of Jews if it suits their political ends. There's always been this claim by the State of Israel that it is the only safe haven in the world for Jews, and that's why Jews need to go there. But actually, there are countless instances of Jews being put in danger all over the world every day, actually, by the state of Israel's actions. And this, no doubt, I'm sure, well, I don't know whether this was an error or not, but either way, it is a good example of how Jews are also pawns in Israel's games of for regional attempts at regional dominance. And we see it when Israel plays fast and loose with anti-Semitism. I've said it before on this show. No one and nothing takes anti-Semitism less seriously than the state of Israel. And actually, I think this is a small example of how no one and nothing takes the safety of Jews more broadly seriously than the state of Israel, if that safety isn't conducive to its own political, ideological ends. And I think that really is useful in exposing Zionism as a political ideology, as a political project.
I mean, I've said this many times. Benjamin Netanyahu is the most secular political leader in the world, right? And what do I mean by that? The god of revisionist Zionism, the god that he worships effectively is the ethnos of Israel, this ethnic group. That is not religion. That is not a religion. That is a form, you could even call it a form of idolatry, right? You're not subordinate to God, actually, you're venerating a certain group of human beings above all others. This ethnic group matter more than everyone else. Everyone else can die to protect this ethnic group. That's not religion. And if you actually know anything about Islam, and I'm not Muslim, I read the Quran about 25 years ago, but if you know anything about Islam, you'll know that it has very deep connections to both Judaism and Christianity, right? So the Kaaba in Mecca, that is actually associated with Abraham, okay? Or Jesus Christ is viewed actually as a very important figure in Islam who is actually going to come back, right? Islam's relationship to Jesus Christ is actually more faith-based than Judaism's is. Islam and Judaism share some things in terms of, consumption of meat. There are certain things that are relatively similar. When it comes to Jesus Christ and the Virgin Mary, actually Islam and Christianity are close to one another. Of course, you won't know any of this because none of this is relayed in our political media culture. Kieran?
Final point on this. What such an aggressive political project claiming to be and to speak for Jewishness and Judaism does, as well as everything else that we've just talked about, is it erases entire cultural histories within Jewish history. So it erases, many people watching this will be surprised to know that there are any Jews inside Iran. That's a form of erasure. And it's perpetuated not by the state of Iran, it's perpetuated by the state of Israel. There are countless other examples. There's an entire subsection of the ethnic group, the Jewish ethnic group, Mizrahi, that came from Iraq, Syria, other parts of the Middle East, to Israel in 1948 and after. Some of them were compelled to go, some of them were compelled by the state of Israel to come. Some of them were economic migrants. All of these histories are melted down and reconstructed as a single Israeli Jewish Zionist history by the state of Israel that aggressively erases all of that complex, often beautiful history in those other places.
I want you to think about this, really. Netanyahu is the most secular leader in the world. I really believe this. He's entirely driven by secular concerns.